grow the deficit, and no one who actually reads the bill should be able to stomach it. My lead source tonight is a senator with maybe one of the toughest jobs on Capitol Hill at this moment. Oklahoma Republican Mullin is tasked with making sure the House, the Senate, and the White House are all on the same page. I'm guessing, is Elon Musk included in that group of people you're trying to keep on the same page here?
You know, I have a lot of respect for Elon, and I've made reference to this earlier today, Caitlin, is I love my wife dearly, and we still have differences sometimes. So I can have a lot of respect for someone and still have differences, and everybody's welcome to their opinion. The fact is, we're going to pass one big, beautiful bill. We're going to get 51 in the Senate, and we're going to make sure that it's not a killer bill that the House can't pass either. And so the House is going to deliver their votes, and we're going to put it on the president's desk for the American people.
So it sounds like you don't believe that Elon Musk will succeed in killing this bill.
No, absolutely not. We're laser focused on delivering President Trump's agenda. The American people elected President Trump in November, and they put the Republicans in charge. This is one step towards multiple promises that the president made by making the tax provisions permanent, by making sure we're cutting deficit spending, and we're getting rid of the waste and fraud, which, by the way, Elon helped identify, especially with the waste and fraud in a lot of these government programs.
Yeah, but he's frustrated that that has not been codified into law. But let's get to Doge in a minute. But on his opposition to the bill, what I'm hearing from people in the White House is they think it's just because of the EV tax credits that are going away, things that help Tesla and his companies. Do you believe that's why he's opposed to this bill?
No, I haven't talked to Elon about it, so it'd be hard for me to comment on it. Everybody wants something in any bill that you go through. That's why we have lobbying firms, right? But Elon and I have not had that conversation at all, so I would say I couldn't speak to that. I would find it difficult because he's been very open in the past, saying that vehicles need to stand on their own, that we shouldn't be picking winners or losers. He's said that before, that that's not the government's role. Create an environment for entrepreneurs like himself, go out and compete with everybody else.
Does his opinion, though, and what he's been saying, make it harder for the Senate to pass this bill?
I think it adds a layer of complications, but it doesn't make it any more difficult. Everybody has an opinion, and they should have an opinion on it, right? This is a massive undertaking we're doing here, but it's still very narrow. Reconciliation can only deal with mandatory spending and taxes, so we can't get into discretionary spending. So a lot of Doge cuts get into discretionary spending, not mandatory spending. When we start talking about mandatory spending, we can't get into Social Security, so we have to look at the waste and fraud and other programs. With that being said, every senator and every representative has a say. At the end of the day, their opinion matters.
Does Elon Musk have a say?
I said every senator and every representative. At this point, we're negotiating now among ourselves. We're taking the promises that President Trump made and the agenda that the American people want us to deliver on, and we're trying to get the best possible bill that can pass both chambers and get to the president's desk, and that's what we're going to deliver.
Well, and his issue is what it's adding to the deficit. That's what he keeps saying publicly. Economists have been warning about the impact that it could have if it passes as it is now. And I know Republican leaders have been disputing those numbers. What economists that Republicans have heard from has told you this bill will not add to the deficit?
Well, we have the same economists that you're referring to are the same economists that said that the TCJA, the tax cuts that President Trump put in place in 2018, was going to add $1.5 trillion in deficits, right? They were dead wrong. It actually added $1.6 trillion in surplus. So these same economists carry little to no weight when they're talking about the tax provisions, because that's what they're talking about. They're saying that if we do nothing on taxes, that it's better for the economy to allow them to expire and have the average tax for the average household go up $1,400 a month. So how can they say that keeping the current tax policy and making it permanent is going to be bad for the economy? Because that's what they're talking about. They're not talking about the waste and fraud we're cutting out of Medicaid. They're talking about the tax provisions.
Yeah, but there's no economist that anyone has pointed to that has said that it won't add to the deficit unless, has someone told you that it will not add at all?
Yeah, because we're looking at what's actually happened before. Last time that we had the TCJA passed, we saw the economy respond to it because, one, confidence brought back into the consumer's confidence level. We saw medium household income increase, and we saw investments in the states and the counties that they live in increase also. Therefore, we saw a $1.6 trillion surplus. What we're saying right here is this is easily going to create a GDP of around 3% easily. We already see trillions of dollars of manufacturing jobs coming back. When we are able to have full expense on R&D, we're able to have confidence that the tax provisions are going to be in place. We know that businesses respond to assurities, and assurities mean that they can depend on our tax code staying in place, and when they do that, they'll invest in our economy.
But part of that, I mean, part of this is why it's coming due is because the last time when it was initially voted, you weren't in office, I don't believe, when the Trump tax cuts were voted.
I was in the Senate. I was in the House.
Right, you were in the House.
Right.
When they were passed in the Senate, though, I mean, they were set to expire. So everyone
5 years.
who passed it knew that this was going to happen at some point, where you would have to pass it, or people would have an increase.
But those are the same economists that were talking about that it was going to destroy the economy.
Right, what you're talking
saw
about
the greatest economy growth during that time that we had seen.
But what you're talking about is the Congressional Budget Office. That's who you're citing here, who scored it then. They've scored this now that everyone's
But they're
been
referring
disputing.
to the same economists to which you're referring to.
Right,
and I'm going to, well, that economist hasn't came to Congress and talked to us.
But let me ask you on the Congressional Budget Office that all the Republicans are disputing now, or at least the ones who are for this bill, because in a headline in December 23rd, 2021, you actually wrote this in the Bartlesville Examiner Enterprise in Oklahoma, and you said, according to the Congressional Budget Office, the Build Back Broke bill, which is President Biden's legislation, will cost $4.9 trillion and add over $3 trillion to our nation's debt. Some people may look at that and say, well, why were the numbers trustworthy then if they're not trustworthy now? Because
we're comparing, by the way, we're absolutely correct on that. But what we're looking at...
But you liked their numbers then, but you don't like them now.
But
some people might say that's
because the way they score, let's just talk about the way they score, right? And I just want to break some stuff down, so I'm going to get a little wonky on you right here. Right now, student loans are at only a 50% payback. So we have $1.6 trillion, and I want to use this as an example. $1.6 trillion in student loans are out, 41,000 total loans. Only 50% are current, 30% are deferred, 20% are in default. Now, what the CBO is saying, because we changed that to where they have, instead of being able to borrow unlimited amount, we've capped it to $50,000, or the House capped it at $50,000 per student. The CBO is saying that's a cost, because they concern that we're not going to be able to collect the interest, because the way the CBO scored this as a cost is that they assume that we're going to collect 100% of it and the interest going into it. CBO also got it dead wrong in 2017, as I've stated before just a while ago.
But was it dead wrong? It was a little off, but it wasn't totally dead wrong.
It was totally off, because they said it was going to be a $1.5 trillion deficit. And instead, by 2019, we had or 2020, we had a $1.6 trillion surplus.
Pandemic. I mean, those things were factored into what happened by 2020.
No, 2020 wasn't in there. I'm saying in 2020, not after we had COVID hit. When the 2020 numbers came out for 2019 came out in 2020, we had a $1.6 trillion surplus. Now, how wrong was it? Now, that same CBO is scoring the same tax cuts the same exact way as they did in 17. They got it wrong in 17. And we know they got it wrong this time.
And you're saying they're wrong now. I'm just saying that you have quoted them before, and so have other Republicans. So people may say, well, we can trust them sometimes, but we can't trust them at other times. But I do want to ask you about breaking news tonight coming out of the White House. Is the president has signed basically a new travel ban, reprising one that he signed in his first term in office. And this list tonight, I was told by a White House official, basically was under consideration. He decided to move forward with it because of what happened in Boulder, that anti-Semitic horrific attack on Sunday. Egypt is not on this list. Why do you think they were left off?
Well, I wouldn't say that's correct, because we've got briefed on this, on what you're saying, that it was because of the Boulder. This was already being considered prior to Boulder.
That encouraged them to do it sooner, is what I was saying.
Basically, I don't know if that's accurate.
So a White House official said that to me about an hour ago.
But with the briefings that we've had, we've been briefed on this prior to this happening. There are some real travel concerns because of some activities that is going place. I don't think the Boulder incident had anything to do with this moving forward, because this conversation has been going on for weeks, and the president takes keeping the American people safe extremely important to him. He talks about it all the time. And so I know that he takes foreign policy serious. He's not wanting to do anything that he feels like he can negotiate deals with individuals. This was a well thought out, not a hurry idea. This is something that he felt like was in America's best interest for national security interests.
But can I ask you on that, and that's your argument for why he did it, the president himself, when he announced this tonight, the White House posted a video. He cites Boulder at the top. It was an Egyptian national who was the suspect there. So he himself was saying that's why. So people may say, well, then why was Egypt not included on this list?
Well, we used as an example of why we need to do this stuff, but that wasn't why he said he did it. He just used it as an example. We could go back through and use several different activities you want to. That's just fresh on people's mind. You know as much as anything, when you're doing retail, you sell what's fast, what is on people's mind at the time. This is explaining why we're doing it, but this isn't the reason why it was done.
But it's part of the reason.
I wouldn't say that. Because I'm telling you, we had already been briefed before we went on Memorial Weekend break. We were briefed on these specific travel bans.
Yes, it was under consideration. Well, let's just listen to the president himself, what he said tonight.
The recent terror attack in Boulder, Colorado, has underscored the extreme dangers posed to our country by the entry of foreign nationals who are not properly vetted, as well as those who come here as temporary visitors and overstay their visas. We don't want them.
So if that is part of the rationale, I mean, that would apply to this suspect here. So should Egypt be on the list?
Absolutely not. But he said underscored. He said underscores the reason. He didn't specifically say Egypt. He said underscores the reasons why we need to do this. Once again, he's using it as an example because it's fresh on people's mind. But that doesn't mean that Egypt has to be on it. Egypt was never being considered at this level for a travel ban. That was not one of the ones we are getting briefed on a couple weeks ago. There's specific reasons.
So this would not have stopped what happened in Boulder.
Well, if we had stricter travel plans, if we had President Trump in office, this gentleman probably wouldn't still be in the United States. What we had is 4 years of the Biden administration that didn't care about our immigration policy at all, and no one can argue that point. You can't argue that. Jake can't argue that. No one can argue
about Jake Tapper?
Yeah, I'm just throwing him out. He comes on right.
I think he's probably like, why am I catching a stray here?
I like the guy sometimes.
I think people might just wonder, if the logic is the concern is vetting people who come into the United States on visas and overstay those visas, that is exactly the suspect who is charged here.
Sure.
But let me ask you also, today the president had a call with President Putin. Obviously, you are a co-sponsor on a bill to sanction Russia. Do you believe the Senate should move ahead with those sanctions?
We're working with the President of the United States. He's done a phenomenal job on our foreign affairs. We don't want to get ahead of the White House. We want to work with the president. We want to make sure this is a leverage point that he can use for Putin. But Russia knows that we are very serious about moving forward with this. Lindsey and I have had multiple conversations with the president about it, Lindsey Graham, wanting to understand which point we need to go ahead and move forward. The president and the White House talking with them on a very high level, saying, hey, let's allow Putin and Zelensky to move forward. As long as Putin is trying to get to actually not a ceasefire, a peace deal. President Trump has been very clear. He wants to end all the killing, period. If Putin is not negotiating in good faith, which I think you saw the president get upset with him just a week ago, if the president gets to the point where he doesn't think that Putin is operating in good faith, then we will immediately move forward, and it will pass. We know that it'll pass both chambers and it'll get to the president's desk, but we can't get ahead of the president.
But do you think he'd sign it if it got to his
desk? Yes, absolutely, because when we move, we'll be moving.
So they told you that at the White House, that he'd sign it?
Yes, because if the president talks to us and says that he's ready to move forward with it because Putin can't be trusted anymore, then we'll immediately go, and it'll be because we've worked with the White House.
But have they asked you to hold off for right now?
Well, I wouldn't say hold off. We're working with them on the timing. Timing is important about anything. Any negotiating you're dealing with, timing is vitally important. Policy that you can have the right policy and the timing's wrong, the policy's wrong. The timing is just important as a policy.
Senator Mark Wade Mullin, thank you for your time tonight, and good luck with those negotiations on Capitol Hill.
Thank you.
Up next, we have more breaking news coming out of the White House. The president issued that new travel ban. We have several other major headlines coming as well, including an investigation he wants launched into his predecessor, President Biden. The details with our sources ahead.